It is time for week 3 college football predictions. It really doesn't matter what day we're shooting this on. Thursday. It's got a not really like the sexiest card of college football games that we've ever had, but hey, it's college football and it beats no college football at all. We've all been there before. It's called the summer. And yeah, it's gonna be a nice little program. Got I think 16 games that we're gonna go over with you. So, Chris, how's it going?
I'm going well. Like you said, it was something we were talking about this morning that didn't think it was the sexiest card. And you're right, it's not, but it's starting to grow on me a little bit now after looking at some of the games and some of the games we're going to talk about today. Maybe it is going to be a little bit more exciting than I first gave it credit for. So I'm excited to talk some college football and ready to head into another loaded weekend.
Throw this card at me around July 7th, and I'm
Oh yeah,
jumping for joy. So
yeah.
Ron, what do you think of this college football season so far in this card?
Yeah, I think it's been kind of a strange college football season. I think there's a lot with the Colorado success. We're seeing kind of a new generation or a new group of fans getting into it, which is always nice to see people get interested in college football. But this card's certainly not as appealing, I think, on paper at least, than as compared to last week's. But still some good games. We'll talk about those gems and maybe Ruffolo slipped in Tulsa, Washington again this week.
So we have a few rivalry games this week, that look to be one-sided on paper, and we're going to go into those a little bit deeper. But generally in these rivalry games, Ron, what are you looking at? Do you think that the rivalry plays as much of a factor as I play it out to be, or do you think that maybe I look into that a little bit too much?
I think it depends. A lot of times those are already baked into the line and stuff. But I mean, these even though I think you guys were talking about on the morning show how players transfer and they might not care about the school history or whatever pedigree and moving into a new team. I still think that the rivalries are still there. These are a lot of these guys were recruited by the same teams and the regional rivalries there. So I do think it makes for a more entertaining game. I don't know if it would change the way I handicap a game, but usually with these rivalries, we see these teams play every year or every other year, so you can get a lot more data in that season series matchup. So more information, but it doesn't really change my handicapping too much.
All right. Well, to me, it's like I just think in a lot of them, you could throw the record books out the window. I've seen it many, many times over the years, and I think that regardless of the transfer portal, the alumni and the boosters and all those people that kind of pay the bills, they care. And regardless of if the players are at this, born in Colorado or born in Florida or Tennessee or whatever the case may be this week, um, they still have to deal with the boosters and the alumni and all that stuff. There's all sorts of events and all sorts of stuff that they have to do before and after the game. And, teams still sing that alma mater in the corner of the end zone after the games, too. And kind of all part of it. And that is part of college football. So it just doesn't go away regardless of the transfer portal. And, there's a certain set of alumni that pay the bills, and they kind of get things their way when it comes to this stuff. But anyway, let's just kick it right off. We've got a lot to talk about, and I'm sure we could blend in some of these other discussions as we go. We've got Illinois taking on Penn State, a Big Ten battle here. Penn State has looked pretty good so far. Illinois has looked okay as well. Certainly not horrible, not great. But, Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, I looked up and down this game and I watched both those Illinois games, the narrow win over Toledo and the loss to Kansas, and I'm not impressed with this Illinois team. Even going back home, you could argue that Toledo probably should have won that game in week one. This Illinois defense through the first two games just really has not been the same stout Illinois defense that we saw last season. That was one of the top scoring defenses in the country. Penn State, they cakewalked through Delaware, but also had a nice win at home against West Virginia to start the year. First road game at Illinois, not necessarily the easiest, but I think they still go on the road, win this one convincingly. I like what I've seen from Drew Aller so far. I think they win this one by 17 points plus, so I'm going to go with Penn State here.
Well, the answer to what did Chris Ruffalo and Shania Twain have in common? They're not impressed too much. That don't impress me much.
Well,
So you've
to
got a
me,
new quarterback.
um, I think this is too many points. I agree with Chris. I mean, Illinois has not been too impressive, but I think last game, they at least showed some fight in the second half. They actually had an outside chance of getting the cover there in the final drive, and I think it was a game where the first half the defense just didn't show up. Like the game got away from them, and it was an ugly final score. The final score actually was not as ugly as the game was, but even though I'm big on Penn State, this is still a team in Illinois that traditionally plays well defensively with Brett Bielema. And like Mitch or Chris mentioned, the defense hasn't been where it wants to be right now, but still, I think one of the better defenses in the Big Ten. And this is a ton of points to lay on the road for a Penn State team that hasn't been on the road yet this season. They had, that win against West Virginia, but this West Virginia team is not very good this season. Then the FCS blowout win over Delaware doesn't really impress me much, but to me, I think Illinois keeps this game close enough to cover the number. I think Penn State finds the win, but it might be a tough one to grab.
Ron, Chris, and Shania now on the same group. Not being impressed much, but yeah, I just think this is one of those tough games, and I just go right to the total in games like this where it's like I'm not really sure because I think Penn State could shut them out and win this one ugly, or I think it could be one of those grinders, 24-20 type things. So I'm going to go just with the under in this thing. I'm going to Ruffolo it out and take the under. We move on. Here's one I could stick my teeth into. We got Mississippi State taking on LSU. SEC action live from Stark Vegas. Cowbells will be ringing. Ron, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Will Rogers at quarterback for Mississippi State, but outside of him, I just don't love the team around him. And I don't know if he's going to be enough of a difference maker to keep his team in the game. I know it's a really tough place to play, but I thought last week's game for Mississippi State against Arizona, you guys know my opinion on the Pac-12 and their defense, and I thought it was a good spot for Mississippi State to earn a blowout W. They barely escaped that game with the win. They were outgained by over 100 yards. That's a concern for me against an LSU team that we knew going into the season was very talented. Yes, they had the hiccup in week 1 or week 0, whatever it was, against Florida State, but they showed up next week. They looked not too happy with their performance with that 72 points against Grambling. I think LSU is just the more talented team all around, especially on the defensive end. I think that's where the difference maker is going to be in this game. So I'll lay the points with the Tigers.
I'm on the other side. I'm on Mississippi State in this one, and I just think this is a good old-fashioned SEC Saturday morning college football smash mouth game. Cowbells will be ringing. Brian Kelly, well, you never really been part of this. And, whenever it comes to the big games, the rivalry games, when the breaks meet the boys and the tough get going, Brian Kelly usually runs for cover and gets run over in those type of games, as we saw in the second half of the Florida State game, as we saw in the national championship game when Notre Dame played Alabama, as we saw when Notre Dame made it to the college football playoff, and, of course, the year against Miami where they were headed supposedly towards the college football playoff and got absolutely stomped in that one. Brian Kelly, just not cut out to be an SEC coach, and I think it's going to be UGLY this year at LSU. I'm taking Mississippi State at home in Stark Vegas. Chris.
Yeah, I'm going to take Mississippi State in the Mississippi State in the points as well. Yeah, I know. I got peanut butter stuck to the roof of my mouth. Yeah, a lot of people. I don't know if a lot of people remember. Mississippi State went into LSU last year, had the lead in the third quarter. They were up 16-10 in that game, and it was 3 late touchdowns in the fourth from LSU that got LSU the double-digit win. They got the cover in that one as well. But
Chris is like in that miserable beat I took.
Yeah, I'm pretty. The only thing is, beat. I think I did take a miserable beating in that game because I think I had Mississippi State in that one. But getting 9.5 at home with Mississippi State here, I haven't loved LSU's defense. Again, it's 2 stark differences between opponents from week 1 to week 2. Florida State to Grambling. I think obviously Mississippi State falls somewhere in the middle there, but I still think they can do enough to keep this one, around a touchdown, maybe a 35-28 win for LSU. I love the over here as well, but I'm going to go with Mississippi State plus the points.
Okay. We've got up next. It's not such bad games. Missouri, Kansas State. Missouri seemed to be onto something. One of the receivers transferred somewhere. I know that much. But not the really good one. He's still there. Right? So, Kansas State, they lose a lot of guys from last year's team. The Deuce, obviously. But they always have a guy like that. It's like they just find him. And I like Kansas State. I like the way they run the hidden ball trick on every single play. Never really sure who's got it or where they're going. Every play is a play of deception. Quarterback, it's like a double option. Where the running back starts, he runs like a sweep almost, coming around to the end. And the quarterback decides to keep it, give it off, or throw it. I like Kansas State in this. I think Missouri's headed in the right direction. And like I said, their top receiver left, the guy with the most yards, but the other guy is actually the better one. So, I don't know. Chris?
Yeah. I kept looking at this game. And for whatever reason, I just couldn't get off of Kansas State here. I don't know. This is not one I'm rushing to bet, but I think Kansas State's just the better team. I know going on the road into an SEC road environment is tough, and Missouri has been a team that's been able to provide value, especially as a home underdog in the last couple seasons. But so I just think Kansas State's just the better team, and I keep looking at this game. I think Wildcats win this one by a touchdown, so I'm going to take Kansas State on the road here.
I'll go with Mizzou in this one. The line's dropping here. I think it's down to 3.5. Some books 4. I think for good reason. I mean, Missouri played so well at home last year. I mean, you look at the results. They blew out Louisiana Tech, blew out Abilene Christian as they should, but a 26-22 loss to Georgia, the national champions last year. Very close game. They beat Vanderbilt outright. Only lost by 4 to Kentucky, another solid team with an NFL quarterback there. They beat New Mexico State handily. They took down Arkansas at home, so they played very well. It's a very underrated place to play. I think a lot of the other stadiums in the SEC get a lot of the looks, including the Swamp. But this is a tough place to play. You got a good head coach in Drinkwitz. To me, I think Missouri wins this game outright. I think they pull up the upset. So give me the points.
Not Abilene Christian.
One of the better FCS teams.
Not Abilene. We got Bethune tonight.
One of the weaker FCS teams.
52. Is that the line or the total? It's the line.
Both 52-0.
7 touchdowns and a field goal. Could cover that by the first quarter. Indiana versus Louisville. One of the more pronunciation variation teams out there. Got Louisville, or as Bitler calls them, Louisville. Then you got
Oh, God. That's bad.
what I call them, which is what the people there call it, Louisville.
Louisville. Just take out as many syllables as you can.
Louisville. That's what they call it when you're there.
Yeah, of course. Louisville.
So that's what I call it. Of course, I don't go there for games. I go there for the Derby or other horse racing betting opportunities.
But it does sound better when you say Louisville Slugger. But it is a Louisville.
Louisville Slugger.
Yeah.
Louisville.
That's a Louisville.
I think he calls it Louisville.
If
No, it's
Brian
an
says
outright
that, then I respect
butchering.
him even less.
It's an outright butchering, Castillo style.
Yeah, he's not the sharpest with the pronunciations.
That's ironic.
Listen, this guy's a sharp. This guy's a sharp, but not the pronunciation.
What do we got, Ron? This is you. Tom Allen is Indy. Is it Chris or is it
Yeah, it's Chris.
Chris?
That's me.
Tom Allen against Brom.
Yeah, I know. It's for me. It's about the lesser two evils here, and I actually think the lesser two evils is actually Tom Allen here. I just don't see Louisville as a team that I want to lay double digits on the road with, especially with Jack Plummer at quarterback. He spent plenty of time with Rome as his head coach at Purdue. I think he had a 25-10 touchdown to interception ratio, so not bad, but I think that the seat's hot for Indiana, and and for Tom Allen. I just think that Indiana's they need to show up and put out a decent performance here. If Allen's going to keep his job, I know they haven't really done it much as of late, but I still think that this is just too many points for me here. I think this is a 7-point win for Louisville if Indiana doesn't give them a shot to win it outright. So I'm going to take Indiana plus the points.
I noticed like a little bit of a twinge in his voice. Just not a real vote of confidence there for Jeff Brom.
Well, for me, I'm going to lean towards Louisville here and lay the points. I think it's interesting to see how much this Louisville defense has improved over the years. We always used to joke about how they could not tackle and they gave up millions of points per game. But, in the last couple of seasons, this defense has been better. And, even now the offense to start the year is running the ball very, very well. First game, almost 7 yards per carry. The second game, almost 8 yards per carry. So that's really important. If you can play well on both lines, the offensive and defensive line, gives yourself a really good chance to win the game. And I know you have to lay a pretty steep number on the road, but I just think Louisville's offense is more explosive. They can get those big bomb plays. I don't think Indiana can keep up with them, so I'll lay the points with the Cardinals.
I think there's a neutral site.
Oh, yeah, it is a neutral site, yep. So,
where's it being played?
Louisville. Let's see. It is at
Lucas
Lucas
Oil
Oil Stadium. Yeah.
Should be a packed house. It's like, what else is going on? We were like, you want to go to the Indiana Louisville game? What else is going on? Anything? Mississippi State's playing LSU. All right, I can't make it. Yeah, this game sucks. This is just typifies the entire card. Kind of, this is really, ACC Big Ten. I'd love to go for the ACC team, but it's Jeff Brom. He's from the Big Ten. He was at Purdue. He just played Indiana. I don't know. It's not like he's got a good team. Tough one. I'm gonna go with the under in this one too. No, I'll go with Indiana. Screw it. Tom Allen's my homeboy. I'm gonna do it, and just to kick myself. I won't be betting this thing, that's for sure, because I can't bet on Tom Allen. Too annoying. Did you happen to catch the Minnesota game last week against Eastern Mich?
No, I know we talked about it, but
oh man, 5:48 left to go in the game. The flexers walking the sidelines, milking the clock all the way down the field, and then they throw one into the end zone, incomplete, kick the field goal to 1 yard line. Yeah, pretty much.
He got flecked.
If you had Minnesota, you were pissed. You're just like, that's what those guys are talking about on that show.
What a flecking a-hole.
It was a flecking a-hole. I'm going with IU in this one, though. The Hoosiers. Next up. Another rivalry game. South Carolina at Georgia. South Carolina went into the last time the game was at Athens. South Carolina won. I think Georgia won the national championship that year, right? South Carolina won the game. Is that what happened?
No.
No?
Well, they didn't win. I mean, last time it was in Athens, it was 40-13 Georgia of 2021.
It was close.
But before that, in 2019, Georgia lost to South Carolina in Athens, 20-17.
Yeah. It's usually a very, very close game between these two. Like last year's 40-13.
Yeah. For me, the home team has not done very well in this series as of late. They're 0-7 against the spread the last 7 meetings, and they are 2-5 straight up. I don't think Georgia's going to get outrighted here, but I have not really been impressed with their. You look at the final scores; they look amazing on paper, 48-7, 45-3. But they played UT Martin and Ball State, one of the weaker MAC teams, and the offense wasn't too explosive. They had a couple of turnover, scores, defensive scores in those games that really dress up the score. But I mean, both of those teams earned over 200 yards against Georgia. That's not really where you want to be if you're a Georgia defense, which is known to be the best in the country every year. So I think South Carolina, experience, offense, quarterback, I think they'll do enough to keep this close. I mean, you get so many points And like I said, the home team 0-7 last 7 against the spread. Give me the points.
I'm going to take
South Carolina.
Georgia in this one. I really was disgusted by South Carolina's performance against North Carolina, and I think Georgia wakes up and smacks them. This is a rivalry game too. You can't throw the record book out the window. I wouldn't be surprised. I think either Georgia covers or South Carolina wins outright. Chris.
Yeah, I really don't love this game because I think that number is pretty much right on. I see this as a near 4 touchdown win for Georgia. I could see 38-10. I could also see, 38-14. So I don't love, like I said, I don't love the number at 27.5. I'll lean towards the under 54.5. I don't think we get a ton of action from that South Carolina offense. I think Georgia just does just enough to get close to the cover, but again, 54.5 to me just too high. So give me the under.
All right. Next up, two schools that fought for Chris Ruffolo to go there. The admissions departments just really went at it,
Yeah.
academically. It's where Ruffalo lands, these two schools. These guys wouldn't let me even near the admissions department. I've been to both these schools.
I had a living room sit down with Coach K.
Yeah, I played golf at Duke.
Or maybe it was Special K. I can't remember.
Visited there for a few days, and Northwestern was just north of Chicago. One of the best games I ever went to was at Northwestern. Michigan State's gigantic comeback at Northwestern. I think it was 41-3. They came back and won. Michigan State. Anyways, I was less than impressed with Duke's win over Clemson. I think that was one of those ones where it was like, I know most games are decided by 2 or 3 plays, but I think two turnovers inside the red zone, one of them inside the 5-yard line, and then one of those plays where the quarterback is sacked, he escapes, and then there's nobody there to contain, and he just runs all the way down the field. I'm not overly impressed with Clemson, so I'm less impressed with Duke's win over them. Northwestern did not look good at Rutgers, but they looked pretty good against UTEP, and Duke's just a rich man's UTEP. I'm going to take Northwestern in this one, plus the boatload of points. I think they got a shot to win it outright. Maybe make me a, what do you call one of those things? Honorary graduate. Graduate in the arts. That's what they call it.
Another one that
I like this one. I actually like this one.
Yeah, it's hard for me that win over Utah. I know you're not impressed with the win over Clemson for Duke, and I get it because I think we talked about it. Clemson shot themselves in the foot so many times in that game. I don't know. The win over UTEP doesn't move the needle a whole lot for me with Northwestern. And UTEP hadn't beaten a team. UTEP hadn't beaten a Power 5 team since like the 60s or something like that. They hadn't. They just haven't been able to do it, and I don't like that UTEP team. I think this Northwestern
sounds like some anti-UTEP prejudice going on here.
Yeah, wait till I get to my segment.
These are some preconceived notions about UTEP.
Wait till I get to my segment.
Here we go. If forced to pick,
stop pandering.
Listen here, you. I've got nothing to say. If I had to, I'd pick Duke laying the points.
We knew you were going to do that, Chris. You could have.
Yeah, but I don't love this game at all. So
you could have just said I'm taking Duke. Everyone knew you were taking Duke, right?
Okay. All right. Sorry.
Ron.
Well, listen, Chris wanted to talk about how UTEP hasn't beaten a Power 5 team in a while, but let's look back at 2019 when this UTEP team won one game, and it was against FCS Houston Baptist, 36-34 in a thriller in Week 1. However, I am more impressed with UTEP than Chris is because this is a very experienced UTEP team with an experienced quarterback and a team that I think going forward we're going to get some value betting on them. But I think it goes to show you, Northwestern had a miserable offseason, obviously the coaching scandal and all that stuff, and basically had to restart there. And they did not look very good against Rutgers, obviously, but they show up and they blow out UTEP 38-7 the next week. And I do give credit a little bit more than Mitch does for Duke's win over Clemson, but I still think that they are overvalued. I think just in terms of just plain line value, Duke is the most overvalued you can get right now. And I think it's a sell low or sell high spot for Duke. I'm going to take the points here with Northwestern. And I agree. I wouldn't be shocked to see Northwestern pull out the outright upset. I mean, last year this was only a one possession game between these two teams, 31-23. So give me the points.
I'm going to guess we're going to see at least one double-digit dog upset outright this week.
Oh, I definitely
at least
think so.
one. I think
a couple.
And I think Ruffolo is going to be on the other side of most of them, since he only takes favorites.
No, I don't.
And you take overs. Anyways, we've got got Oregon State against San Diego State. San Diego State did not show up against UCLA, but Oregon State, once again, very public win, sort of like Duke's win, where it was like the only game in town. It's on TV, and it was against San Jose State, who had shown up against USC in the prior week, getting 36 covered. Getting 36 against USC, that was their claim to fame. But San Diego State, just fell flat in their face against UCLA, but they did play well in that opening game against Ohio, a game where Ohio was a very public dog. And a lot of people were on Ohio. A lot of money action on Ohio. Is it my turn? It's your turn, Ron. I'm rambling. Go ahead.
I think it's Chris's turn, no?
No, I think it's Mitch because I went last.
No, I went for. You went last.
I went last, I think, because I took Northwestern.
We're all out of sorts here.
You're up, Chris.
Mitch is first.
I'll go first. I don't care.
No, Chris is first. Go ahead.
All right.
Take it away, Chris.
Mine's easy. We're not going to be ranting and raving and talking about like UTEP and shit. That's for sure.
Hey. Whoa.
I meant Ruffolo's UTEP.
Hey, whoa, easy.
That was anti-UTEP.
Yeah, we're pro UTEP here at Picto.
I'm gonna take San Diego State in the points. I think this is just too many for Oregon State. Even if Oregon State has another convincing performance, when we already saw them beat up on San Jose State, but I still like this San Diego State defense. I think they're still solid, even if they're not the best in the Mountain West. They're still good. I think they're going to be good enough here to keep this one within 3 touchdowns, a field goal, and a hook. So give me San Diego State in the points in this one.
Wow, Ruffalo's actually taking a dog. Ron?
Yeah, this game's quite brutal, in my opinion. I'll lean towards Oregon State. They've just been it's not my favorite game, but I just worry about when you look at San Diego State. If this is a game, Oregon State's offense, 42 points, 55 points the first 2 weeks. If they go anywhere near that in this game, I just don't think San Diego State has a chance to cover, because this offense year after year is usually not doing too much. 21 points per game last year, 27 the year before, but that was one of their better teams in a long while. This offense isn't in good shape. The defense was perennially pretty good, but so far this year it hasn't been that impressive. 25 points per game against Ohio, UCLA, but Idaho State to go as well. 28 points given up in that game. Yeah, give me Oregon State. I actually like this one a lot more.
I'm going to roll with San Diego State. I'm not going to get that many chances to fade DJU in my lifetime anymore, so I'm going to take advantage of every single one that I get. And I think with 24.5 points, that's better than 3 touchdowns and a field goal in my back pocket. I think the chances of him just turning one over and setting me up for at least a backdoor cover at the very least, or putting San Diego State in the lead and Oregon State having to make the comeback in this one. Just too many factors work for my San Diego State defense with DJU at the helm. I'm going to have to roll with the Aztecs in this one. I don't know, man. You might say that I don't like DJU.
How do you say his name?
I don't say it. I don't say it.
It's Voldemort.
I taught you last week.
Huma huma nu. Kapua a.
Puka Nakua.
Bermuda, Jamaica. Ooh, I want to take you.
Hawaii State. Well, we go to this game is out of order. That's okay. We go to the Swamp, and it is the Gators taking on the Vols. This is another rivalry game, and once upon a time, there was a bunch of close games between these two teams, but those days have come and gone, and it's been blowout one way or blowout the other way, and it's been pretty indiscriminate of where the game has been played. I think that Florida may be thinking, because they're pretty quick to the trigger these days, Maybe signing a Sun Belt coach wasn't the best idea.
Pish posh. Florida 7-2 against the number in the last 9 in this series. Home team is 6-2 against the number in the last 8. Florida wins this game outright. Graham Mertz, Heisman winner. Gators plus the points. You can take the money line. It's a lot easier. Go Utah.
I'm gonna roll with Tennessee. I mean, I love betting against Florida, and I love when they're bad even more. You know, my favorite part of last weekend was Anthony Richardson getting stuffed at the 1 yard line and then had to leave the game because they felt they had a better chance to win with Gardner Minshew to punch it in.
You
there.
got to admit, he was the better of the rookie. He was the best rookie quarterback.
I've been saying it all week. I've said it on every show. Anthony Richardson was the best rookie quarterback all week, and I even said I'm getting my Anthony Richardson jersey. I'm in.
Oh God!
I said it on
he was pretty
yesterday's
impressive.
NFL show. He was the best rookie quarterback by far. It wasn't even close because Stroud's hideous. He just, I mean, oh my God! It's like, oh my! It's like, woo! And then Bryce Young. I mean, you get rung up by the Falcons. It's like, that ain't good.
Yeah, I mean,
but actually, Anthony Richardson kept them in the game. He was competitive. His mother, a little annoying in the press box with the dancing and all that other stuff. It's unnecessary. He's got, maybe if he wins a game or something, you could celebrate a little bit. But I thought he played actually really well. But, you know, who didn't play very well was Ethel Mertz or Fred Mertz or Graham Mertz. And I think they all stink. Joe Milton's world, we're just living in it. I'm taking Tennessee Volunteers. Chris?
Well, first I want to thank Ron. I think he might have just gotten us to start implementing drug testing at Pick Dogs being in a cup.
Yeah. You already used that one, Chris.
After I heard Graham Mertz Heisman winner. But that being said, I think we're in the upside down right now where Tom Allen is Mitch's homie, and I'm actually betting a game with Graham Mertz behind me. I mean, I see Florida, you know, Tennessee hasn't won in the swamp since 2003. I know this is one of the better Tennessee teams they've had in recent years, but the offense hasn't been clicking under Joe Milton yet. It'll probably get there eventually, but Napier also as an underdog, you know, if we talk about Matt Rule the last couple of weeks, him as an underdog, Napier 17-5 against the spread in his last 22 as a dog, 5-0 against the spread as a dog since coming to Gainesville. I think Florida's got a shot here, so I'll take Florida in the points.
You're a stupid man.
Stupid man.
Let's move on.
I was trying to figure out. I was sitting here thinking which one I was going to get. Was it going to be stupid man, idiot, foolish lack of vision, dumbass? I was prepared. So
BYU taking on Arkansas. The Hogs have got a quarterback that's of all quarterbacks, but they did not cover last week in that game. But supposedly this guy's the guy, right? I mean, they have the guy at quarterback. I know Arkansas, they've been talking about how good they're going to be for years, but I don't see it, man. Maybe I'm missing something. BYU usually has about a 28-year-old quarterback going. A lot of big linemen and a lot of stuff like that. Now in the Big 12, I think this one's going to be a smash mouther. I'm going to take BYU in the points in this thing against the Hogs. I know that the Arkansas fans are super big on this, but oh my God, man. Here it goes again. Well, that's okay, as long as it's you that feels that way, because it's far from the truth. The reason why I don't like Anthony Richardson, the reason why I bashed Anthony Richardson, it was very well-founded, was that he throws a lot of interceptions, and that one that he threw against Jacksonville was pretty pathetic. I mean, it was horrid, the interception they threw. I just thought he made up with it for a lot of things. And not all black quarterbacks are dual threat in that way. And that's you probably being, maybe your own preconceived, I don't know what you want to call it, preconceived, I don't know what you call that, but prejudices, right? So it's like, because believe me, Doug Williams was pretty sure he was black, and he was a pure drop back, throw it as hard as you can quarterback, man, who could throw it down the entire field. And there's been plenty of those as well. So it goes both, and there's also white quarterbacks that are the dual threat as well. So it doesn't matter if they're white or black. They're all quarterbacks, and Anthony Richardson throws a lot of interceptions. I just thought he played better than the other guys in the opening week. And I would say Stroud is more of a drop back passer too. No?
Yeah.
What do you think? You think Stroud I'd call him a drop back.
I would say more of a drop back than a dual threat.
Yep. Chris, are you dual threat? You can pass or run at any time.
I'm a triple threat. I can pass, run, and catch. I'm not going to run from this one, though. I'm going to take the under 47.5 in this game. Don't love Keaton. I just don't like Keaton Slovis as quarterback of BYU. But I'm a little bit concerned for Arkansas.
You always said we're like Slovis, man.
No.
Yeah, you last year you were like Slovis.
Actually, that was a quote. He said Slovis. Yeah.
Yep, I think so.
Oh, just stop it. Both of you. Pipe down. Yeah, I don't love Slovis in this offense. I didn't like how this offense looked against Sam Houston State. I didn't like how the offense looked against Sam Houston. I just haven't liked what I've seen from BYU through the first couple games. Arkansas, no Rocket Sanders, it looks like, for this one. I think it's just going to be a low-scoring game. I think it's going to be one of those ugly, like Mitch said, buckle up the chin straps, hard-hitting, 24-14, 24-17 kind of games. So give me the under 47.5 here.
Arkansas is going to call and say, I really wasn't impressed with Ruffolo much. Not like the other.
So you got the...
How about Northern Illinois and Nebraska? I think there's another one where it's possible outright on the dog side too. So these MAC teams have not fared well in Lincoln.
No. I agree with Chris on the under. I like the under, and I think if the game is lower scoring, the points are at a premium. I think BYU plus the points is worth a look. You know, last year's matchup, we saw a 52-35 final score, so a super high scoring game. But these are completely different teams, I think, at least. I mean, I know KJ Jefferson's back, but this Arkansas offense is at less than 400 yards the first two games. They played Western Carolina and Kent State. UCF put up, I think, over 700 yards against Kent State, so that's concerning for me. And yeah, BYU's offense has not done too much, especially that Sam Houston game was pretty ugly, 14-0 win. But you know, Sam Houston has one of the best defenses out of the teams moving up to FBS football. So I don't put too much into that game. I think Slovis is better than what we've seen. I think he's good enough to keep this game within a touchdown. So I'll take the points with BYU and lean towards that under as well.
Chris Ruffolo doing the slides here. He left out Purdue Syracuse, I think.
Didn't he just learn how to do that one?
All right.
I brought it up.
I like Syracuse in that one.
Yeah, I'll take Syracuse.
Anyways, next up. Let's see. Who'd you take in that one, Ron? BYU, Arkansas?
BYU and the under.
BYU under, same game parlay. Too late. You already said it. Got
it's spoken into existence.
We got Michigan State and Washington going at it. Great week at Michigan State off the field. They're really just having a great run there in East Lansing, man. It's like first the whole gymnastics thing, now back into the football program. It's like everyone but Tom Izzo is fair game, I guess, at Michigan State. So, meanwhile, he never knows that any of this stuff goes on. I don't know. Spartans did cover against Central Mich. Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, you can cover against Central Mich, but I don't think you're covering against Washington. I think Washington, I really like this Washington team. And the thing is that with Kalen DeBoer running the offense, they don't take their foot off the gas either. They go for a full 60 minutes. I think Michael Penix just carves up this Michigan State defense. This Michigan State program is in shambles right now. I'm going to take Washington to win big. So give me the Huskies laying the points.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Chris here. Yeah, I'm a little bit concerned with the Washington defense. Giving up quite a few yards to Tulsa last week is not where you want to be. I think Tulsa is one of the weaker offenses in the AAC. But I think, like Chris mentioned, they're not going to take their foot off the pedal. Michigan State's had a rough week, and I do think that program is in shambles right now. And I think they're going to go on to have a pretty rough year. So, anything less than 3 touchdowns, I think there's value at Washington. I think they win this game by 3 touchdowns. So I'll take the Huskies.
I'm going to Bitler my way out through this one. All the squares are humping up on Washington. The books are begging for Washington action because this line should be about 26.5. I mean, it should be. The real line is about 26.5 in this thing. Because I mean, the books are just begging you to take Washington.
I don't think so.
Michigan State's a scrappy bunch, and I think that they're going to. I think they're going to get it done here. Really like what Mel Tucker's done there at Michigan State. I think the Spartans are going to compete for the A-10 title. I'm going to go with Michigan State.
All that was missing there.
It's my Bitler.
All that's missing there is they're not that bad.
I'm telling you, Michigan State, they're not that bad.
You're missing. They're going to really want to win this one because they want to win. The other team doesn't care about it.
And we also got to see the top of your head too.
It's funny, but I think with a game like this, I do think that the public is going to be all over Washington. But it comes a point where you can't. It's a Power 5 Michigan State, such a historic team. I think there's a limit of where the line can go.
I don't think so.
I don't know.
What was the line on the Michigan game?
I just think we're getting value.
50.
I just think we're getting a good price for Washington because. It's like the Yankees. As bad as they can be, people are always going to bet the Yankees.
You think you're getting a good line because you're foolish and lack vision.
All right.
West Virginia against Pitt. Backyard brawl. West Virginia favored in this one. Tell you what, Cincinnati didn't look too bad, did they, against Pitt? I think they allowed 83 rushing yards against Pitt in that game. Bearcats. Emory Jones and company.
Yeah.
I like Emory Jones so much.
What'd you say?
Why do you like Emory Jones so much?
This one, this is a tough one. It wasn't a great performance for Pittsburgh at all. I am surprised to see Emory Jones have that much success to start the year, but I do think Pittsburgh's better than what we've seen. I mentioned earlier in the show that West Virginia, looks like one of the weaker West Virginia teams we've seen in a while, and I'm going to continue with that. They beat up Duquesne, good for them, but it was an ugly game against Penn State week 1. I think Pittsburgh is the better team. I'll take the Panthers.
I think that the game against the Penn State game, it was like a late touchdown by Penn State for the cover in that thing. But I thought that West Virginia really wasn't that bad in that game. They weren't that horrible. Not nearly as bad as Pitt was last week against Cincinnati. I mean, when Emory Jones has his way with you, you're not very good. I'm going to take West Virginia in this one. This is one where you throw the record book out the window. These teams really do hate each other's guts. I mean, they hate each other's guts. It is the backyard brawl. Chris?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Pitt here, plus the point as well. This is a game I'd probably rather settle in to watch as a fan than bet, but I'm just not a fan of this West Virginia defense. Pitt,
but you are a fan of the Pitt team that got gouged by Emory Jones?
Emory Jones is not that bad. I think
scrappy.
He's scrappy.
He's that bad.
Not that good either.
No, he's not that good.
True. This is true. But, Phil Jerkovich, experienced quarterback. He can go into West Virginia, do just enough to get Pitt the win. This is not going to be a blowout by any means. I think this is whoever gets the ball last second field goal probably wins this one, but I'll lean towards Pitt plus the point.
I hate the portal.
You just haven't inner thoughts.
Houston up against the Froggies of TCU. TCU, of course, that game against Colorado going to go down in the record books regardless of what happens to them. But Houston last week outrighted by Rice 43-41 in a shootout. Oh, man, are we going to see some points in this game more than likely. What's the total set at 100?
63.5.
63.5. That is 9 touchdowns and a half. For those who keeping score at home. 9 touchdowns and a 2-point conversion. Is it me?
Yes, it is, Mr. Puck.
Crap. I'm going to go Houston in this one. As bad as Houston looked against Rice, who was actually not that, who played Texas respectably. TCU just doesn't look like the same team that we saw last year. They're way too sloppy. And I like the way that Houston looked against UTSA. I thought they really drew the line in the sand and played tough against a good team. While TCU, I got to say that, I think that Nichols is as good as the next guy when it comes to that style of team. But 41-6 against Nichols, you didn't even cover the 6 touchdown spread. So I'm gonna go with Houston. I think Clayton Tune's gonna come back and have his jersey ironed. I don't know if they're retired though. So iron it.
We steamed it for him.
We steamed your jersey for you.
Got it dry cleaned. I'm gonna go same game parlay this. I'm gonna go Houston in the over. I think this one's a 1 touchdown game, regardless of which way it goes.
I think it's a money line Houston too. I'm gonna go money line on that. Sorry.
Yeah, I think this game is like a 45-38 kind of game, whichever way you look at it. 2 civ defenses, especially last time we saw Houston giving up, I think, 43 to Rice, and then TCU. That obviously that we talked about that week 1 performance against Colorado. I like Donovan Smith for Houston, and I'm all right with Chandler Morris for TCU. I think 2 teams are going to put up points in bunches here. Give me the over and give me Houston plus the points.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the over. I'm not really in love with the side because, on one hand, TCU I do think is better than that upset loss week 1. Houston's coming off an upset loss as well, so I don't think there's much value of betting against them. I think the price is where it should be. I just think we're going to see 2 bad defenses here. Like we saw in that first game for TCU. I mean, the secondary was atrocious, giving up over 500 yards. Houston should be able to move the chains at will, and TCU as well. Chandler Morris, I still think he's a very solid quarterback option. About 70% completion so far this season. A couple of mistakes, early, especially in that Colorado game, but still think there's a lot of talent for this TCU offense. So I could see both of these teams in the very high 30s. I'll take the over.
Clemson versus Florida Atlantic. The Owls generally not a horrible team, for a team in that thing, but when they step up in competition, they generally don't do that well. Death Valley, a tough building. Always has been, always will be. Even when Clemson's bad, it's tough. But I think Kate Klubnik might be looking over his shoulder. I know they always have a ton of recruits there, so my guess is they got some guy that's really, really good that's waiting right behind him. Chris?
Yeah, I went back and forth on this one because I do think Clemson does need a nice bounce back here, but I think this is just a case of too many points. Also got to remember Clemson's got Florida State on deck, so they might keep some cards close to the vest. They might have one eye looking past FAU here. I can see this is like a 35-14 win for Clemson if they come out and really focus and put their best foot forward here. But even that, like I said, I think 24.5, just too many here. So I'll take FAU with the points.
Clemson did not cover that 52 against Charleston Southern.
I think that game was tied early, like in the first half, wasn't it?
It was. It didn't look like they had a chance of covering early. It was a pick 6 that Charleston Southern, it looked like they were going to cover easy, but then it got a little dicey. 66-17 your final. FAU, like Mitch mentioned, they do struggle in these step-up spots. I mean, last year we saw against UCF 40-14 final in favor of the Knights. A couple years ago against Florida on the road, 21-point loss, which would cover this number. But I think Clemson, I think this is just a kind of a feel-good win, a blowout win for Clemson. There's, despite that 66-17 final score, like we mentioned, it was close early on. So I don't think Clemson or Sweeney is very impressed with those first 2 games. I think we see Clemson have the sharpest performance so far this year, and that should be enough to cover this number.
I'm going to take FAU. I think the problems are bad at Clemson this season. I think they're a lot worse than people think, and I think Klubnik is really not a very good quarterback, and I think those high throws just scare me. I think this could easily be one of those ones where it's close in the fourth quarter, and Clemson pulls it out. I think Clemson wins the game, but Miami has Clemson on the schedule this year, October 21st at Hard Rock, and I really thought that was a game that I'd already marked it as a loss for Miami, but not so much anymore. So, I'm going to roll with FAU plus the points. I think this one is one of those ones we see at Clemson have those games all the time where it's close late, and then they get the win. Got Oregon taking on Hawaii. It is a bit of a sandwich for Oregon. They've got Colorado at home next week at Outson. The Bows, though, just really not not anything under Chang right now. Ron?
Yeah, it was nice to see Hawaii compete that first game at Vandy. They covered, pretty easily at the end of that game, and then we saw the issues in the next one against Stanford. They beat Albany, but not by much last week. I just don't. I think Oregon scores at will in this game, and that's the question. I mean, you're laying a huge number. You're laying 38 points. Is scoring at will going to be enough to cover the spread? Because Hawaii's offense is still pretty solid. They may have a bomb or two touchdown here and there. I still think it's enough to cover. I think the Oregon wins this game, even though I don't believe in a look ahead spot. I know Colorado's on deck, and they're coming off of an emotional or exciting win over Texas Tech. But I think Oregon still scores at will, and covers this number. So I'll take Oregon.
I think Oregon wins no problem in this thing, and I think they kind of flex it up and get the starters out of there in a hurry. I think the starters play a half in this game, and then the backups play most of the second half. Oregon's stacked. I mean, make no mistake about it. This team, Mario Cristobal, when he left, a lot of players left as well, linemen and things of that nature, but he's still – the cupboard's not bare. There are a lot of players that don't want to play at Oregon. That Phil Knight and Nike thing going on in Oregon is always going to attract a lot of top-tier players. And you look at NFL rosters, they're loaded with Oregon players. So, and that's through several different coaches. Willie Taggart, Mario Cristobal, Chip Kelly. Who was the guy after Kelly? Kelly's assistant, remember? He had a rough go of it. Ryan something. I wonder what he's doing now. What's he doing now? Chris, what do you think?
And this one I'm going to go with the over 69. I agree. This is sort of just how you feel about Oregon, sort of where this line is just going to finish. I think it could be close to the number. I could also see like a 63-14 kind of game where Oregon just takes their foot and just doesn't let it off the gas. But like Ron said, this Hawaii offense, the run and shoot's been working for them. They've at least been able to be respectable in some spots. And they were able to put up some points against Stanford. Granted, Stanford not the same level as Oregon, but still think they can do enough here to contribute to a total of 69. I think they get up and over it, so I'm going to take the over 69 here.
Mark Helfrich. Out of
He's
football.
On Fox Sports, right?
Yep, out of football. Last job, Bears offensive coordinator.
Wow.
And Oregon's had some great head coaches, man. Rich Brooks. Rich Brooks was a great head coach in Oregon. 204 and 91. Whew. Eddie Robinson, Coach of the Year, 1994. Home Depot, Coach of the Year. Sporting News, College Football, Coach of the Year. Paul Bear Bryant Award. Pretty much a good closet full of hardware. Who'd you take, Chris?
I took the over 69. Nice.
All right. 2 more games left for this show. Texas and Wyoming. Wyoming, of course, has beat Texas Tech. Now they got a chance to beat Texas. The Horns, coming off of that big win over Bama, this is a natural letdown spot, man. It is a big-time letdown spot. The Cowpokes, they did pretty well in that game against Texas Tech. The offense was a lot better than I thought it was going to be, which I thought it was going to be 0. I thought they would score 0 points in that game. That's how good the offense was. But I think they're going to show up here against Texas. I think getting the 4 touchdowns and change, I think they at least I think they cover. I'm gonna take Wyoming over Texas. Is probably usually Sarkeesian teams fall apart at the seams, so I don't see any reason why this one wouldn't.
Oh boy, yeah, I don't love this game. Might want to
I've heard
change.
just so I've heard this show.
Yeah, I know.
Um,
There's a lot that I don't like. I got to switch the graphic, by the way.
I have it on preview.
Preview, yeah. Um, if this line were to drop under 27.5, I would probably actually go with Texas here. I'm just concerned that Wyoming's just not going to be able to produce enough offensively. This is, like you said, prime letdown spot for Texas. Wouldn't surprise me if it happened, but I just don't trust Wyoming enough to do enough to keep it within the number here. So I lean Texas, if anything.
Yeah, I think that the advantage that Wyoming gets when it plays at Memorial or War Memorial Stadium in Laramie is, I think that was one of the big reasons why they were able to outright Texas Tech. And now going on the road, I just don't think that their offense travels, and even their defense last week against Portland State was not very good. I mean, they gave up 344 yards. They only outgained them by less than 30 yards in that one. So I am a little bit concerned with that. I think Texas, it's like Mitch said, a natural letdown spot for sure, but I still don't think Texas has any issues winning this game by 30 points. So I'll lay the points. If this was at Wyoming, they'd be a lot more attractive to me. But on the road, I got to take Texas.
It's at Wyoming. Wyoming's favored.
Wyoming -3.
And the final game for today's show, I'm sure everybody already knows what my pick is, but we will move on. Colorado State. Chris, you're first.
Oh boy. I'm gonna do same game parlay here. I'm gonna go with Colorado State plus the points, and I'm gonna go with the over. I think it's a game that, we talk about the sandwich spot. You've got Colorado, they've got Oregon and USC, coming up in quick succession. I think Colorado State could take advantage here and at least keep this one respectable. Jay Norvell, he did the sort of same thing in Reno when he was head coach in Nevada. The Wolfpack struggled in year one and then won, I think, 8 games in his second year. Colorado State wasn't good last year. I think they could be a little bit improved this year. I think they do enough to keep this one close, but also push this one over the number. I think Colorado's going to be able to score at will. But yeah, I like the over 59, Colorado State in the points.
Give me Colorado State and the points. It's just plain and simple. This is just on line value. I mean, Colorado, if they don't pull off these, the upset win over TCU and they take care of Nebraska, they're a 17, maybe 14-point favorite in this game because of those big wins, public wins on TV and, all the hype that's gone with Colorado and Coach Prime. They're a 23, 24-point favorite. They're overvalued. It's plain and simple. It's nice to see Colorado having success, but this team is just not as good as where the line is right now. And, I don't love Colorado State. I don't think it's an amazing team, but I still think they're good enough to keep this game within the number. So give me the points all day long.
Colorado State is plus 1165 on the money line. I think they're a live dog in this game. I think Colorado, this is a rivalry game, and I think the fact that, you even hear people saying and disrespecting the rivalry just means, oh man, look out. It means you don't see it coming, because that's when you get knocked out, when you don't see it coming. And I think that Colorado State and Norvell certainly have a chance, especially with 2 weeks to prepare for this game, to come in here. And you put this game at the 10 o'clock at night spot, on Eastern time. Oh, man, that's where the Dirty Tricks Committee lives. And, it'll be that one, oh, man, can you believe they lost? They missed that 2-point conversion. Can you believe that they barely lost? Oh, they had it. They got screwed by the refs. It's going to be something. And it's going to be late night, and half the country's going to miss the finish, right? But it's going to be the Colorado State Rams walking away with the win in this one at plus 1165, and I'm going to be showing my ticket all over the place.
Part of me says, I hope Colorado State covers, but doesn't win because I want to get that value next week as well again with Oregon.
Well, the line's 14.5 in the Oregon game. You can bet it right now. That line's out.
All right, I will.
You can bet it. I mean, you can get it right now, 14.5.
Well, no, I mean, when Colorado, I do think Colorado will win. If they do, I think that line's going to drop a bit, and I think you get a better price, but we'll see. Definitely Colorado State.
And block this guy. Yeah.
And UTEP money line.
All right. Well, that wraps up today's show. Any questions, any comments, you can always leave it in the comments of this video. We'll be back next Thursday going over next week's college football card, which looks to be a little bit better than this week as far as like the overall attractiveness of games. There's going to be cards like this, and these are the ones, the games pay just as much as Texas, Alabama. So, next week, big card with 4 Friday games. Wisconsin, Purdue, one of them, two teams that kind of trying to find their footing. Texas A&M, Auburn, kind of a good, barometer game. Then you've got Utah against UCLA, very big game in the Pac-12. Clemson, Florida State. Washington State, Oregon State. The rubber's going to meet the road in that one. I think Washington State, way underrated. I gave them out last week on this show on the money line. Washington State, they beat Wisconsin's ass. That's going to be a good one. Oklahoma, Cincinnati, rematch. Got that's the only good games there are. No, I'm just kidding. There'll be plenty more action as well. Of course, that Miami Temple game that we all have circled as well will be part of that show. Alabama, Ole Miss.
New Mexico, UMass for me.
We're at Wyoming, App State.
Oof.
Yeah. Arkansas, LSU. That's a rivalry game.
Hold me back.
Big rivalry game. Baylor, Texas,
stay up
rivalry
late?
game. And then a couple schools you might have heard of. Notre Dame, Ohio State is next week as well. That one in South Bend. Notre Dame already installed as a 2.5-point dog in that game. And, of course, Colorado, Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a
What
big,
time
big
is that,
card
Jim?
next week. Colorado, it's sitting at 14.5 right now.
Yeah, 3:30 Eastern.
Yep.
ABC.
ABC.
Easy
Don't
as
forget UNLV, UTEP, and El Paso.
Who won that New Mexico State game last week?
They play this week.
Oh, this week.
for this week.
Oh. Hold me back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Miami travels to Temple for that 3:30 tilt. That'll be on the big screen.
I bet it will.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us. We appreciate each and every one of you. Of course, I think next week's card's going to be off the chain. So have a good one. Bet with your head, not your heart. And, of course, smack those money line dogs like there's no tomorrow.